there, friends! Today we're trying something new on the channel. We're diving into the Legend of Zelda manga series. Now, I know manga adaptations are a bit different from my usual video game deep dives, but I think you'll find these stories are packed with just as much excitement and lore. If you enjoy this new format and there's enough interest, I'll cover all the Zelda manga adventures, and maybe even explore other game-to-manga series too. The Zelda Manga series began in 1999 when two talented female artists working under the pen name Akira Himekawa decided to bring Link's adventures from the video game screen to the manga page. They started with Ocarina of Time and have since adapted nearly every major entry in the Zelda video game franchise into manga form. Each manga takes the core story from the games and expands it with deeper character development and emotional moments that the games couldn't explore. They add original storylines, create new characters, introduce unique races like the Watarara, and give our usually silent hero Link an actual personality and dialogue. So whether you're a longtime Zelda fan curious about the manga interpretations, or someone who loves manga and wants to experience Hyrule in a new way, we've got quite the adventure ahead of us. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more manga content like this. Anyway, grab a cookie and some hot chocolate, get comfortable, and let's journey through the wonderful world of the Zelda manga series. We'll start with the Minish Cap manga, which takes us on a tiny adventure with our hero Link and his unusual hat companion Eslo. In this tale, Link must save Princess Zelda, which involves entering the world of thumb-sized beings called the Picori, who help him on his quest. Are you ready? Well, then let's get started. Chapter 1. Link and Vaati. Our journey begins with the introduction of mysterious beings known as the Picori. They are tiny creatures, no larger than a thumb, and invisible to the naked eye. But when people aren't looking, they secretly help them because they just love humans. We then see a blacksmith's workshop where we find young Link and his grandfather hammering away at what's becoming a finely crafted sword. The old smith admires their work, noting that the quality is so good it might have been made with help from the Picori themselves. Link, being the skeptical kid he is, questions these fantasy creatures, but his grandfather reminds him that children have the special ability to see them, and maybe someday Link will too. Realizing he's running late for sword training, Link dashes off to his lessons. Poor Link gets some disappointing news when he arrives, though. While the other students are preparing for the tournament at the upcoming Picori festival, Link will only be watching from the sidelines. His sensei doesn't think he's ready yet, and honestly, Link is absolutely crushed by this news. Frustrated and feeling like his training was pointless, Link heads to the forest to blow off some steam. While aggressively swinging his wooden practice sword at a tree, he suddenly feels someone watching him. Turning around, he spots a mysterious figure in dark robes who's actually laughing at Link's tree fighting skills. This stranger, who we'll come to know as Vaati, shows off by magically blasting the tree with a single shot, clearly demonstrating the difference in their abilities. Before Link can process what's happening, the figure vanishes into thin air. Just then, Princess Zelda appears. She's snuck away from the castle again, which is totally on brand for her. When she asks what happened to the tree, Link changes the subject, pointing out that the ministers will be furious if they discover she's gone. But Zelda couldn't care less about that. She's here because she wants Link to accompany her to the Picori festival. When Link tries to decline, saying he wants to be alone to train, Zelda pulls out the big guns, her tears. It works like a charm. Link immediately backtracks, claiming he was just joking, and Zelda's tears magically disappear as she drags him toward the festival. At the festival, the town is absolutely buzzing with excitement. Music fills the air, delicious food scents waft around them, and the crowd immediately starts teasing Link about his friendship with the princess. As they explore, Zelda spots a lottery booth and wants to try her luck. Link, being the practical one, points out that nobody ever wins these things, but wouldn't you know it, Zelda's ticket is called as the winner. For her first place prize, Zelda can choose anything she wants. The crowd suggests all sorts of valuable items, but our princess has her eyes set on something unexpected, a shield. When Link questions her choice, suggesting she could pick something better, Zelda reveals her thoughtful nature. She hands the shield to Link, explaining that since he worked so hard but couldn't participate in the tournament, he should use this until next year. Link is completely caught off guard by her kindness and understanding. As they head to the castle for the tournament, Zelda asks if Link knows the history behind the Picori festival. Link's grandfather had told him all about it, how evil spirits once ravaged the world, and with the help of good spirits, a magical sword was given to a hero who drove away the darkness, and the festival commemorates this victory each year. Zelda adds excitedly that the Picori are real, and the door to their world opens once every 100 years, and this year's festival marks the 100th. At the tournament, the final match pits the undefeated champion, Big Bad Max, against a mysterious challenger, none other than Vaati. Link immediately recognizes him as the figure from the forest and tenses up. The match starts, and before anyone can blink, Vaati defeats his opponent with a single magical blast, stunning the crowd and becoming the new champion just like that. Link's grandfather then appears, explaining he's there to deliver the champion's sword as Hyrule's finest blacksmith. A legendary sword sealed inside an ornate chest is brought forward, and according to legend, this sacred blade holds the power to seal away evil spirits. As the king stands before Vaati to present him with the tournament prize, instead of being satisfied with just receiving the sword and having his name recorded for posterity, Vaati reveals his true intentions. He's actually after the mysterious chest. With a confident smirk, Vaati explains that the chest is only unsealed once a year, making this his perfect opportunity. Before the guards can even react, he unleashes a powerful spell that literally shatters the sacred sword and bursts open the chest. What follows is absolutely chaotic. Darkness spills out as evil spirits, long trapped inside, flood the room, spreading mayhem everywhere. Our hero Link immediately jumps into action with his newly acquired shield. When one of these nasty spirits lunges toward Princess Zelda, it's repelled by some mysterious, unseen force. Even Vaati seems surprised by this unexpected protection surrounding the princess. When Zelda boldly confronts Vaati about his identity and motives, our villain becomes intrigued by this strange power protecting her. Rather than answering her questions, he decides she might become a problem later and should be dealt with immediately. But our brave Link isn't having any of it. He rushes in to shield Zelda from harm, standing between her and the Dark Sorcerer. Of course, Vaati isn't impressed by this heroic display and casually sends Link flying through the air with just a flick of his wrist. With Link temporarily out of the way, Vaati turns his attention back to Zelda and casts a terrible spell. We watch in horror as her body glows briefly before hardening into cold, lifeless stone. After admiring his handiwork, Vaati peers into the now open chest only to find it empty. His expression darkens as he mutters about continuing his search for something called the Light Force somewhere in Hyrule before vanishing into thin air. Link rushes to Zelda's side, but it's too late. She's been completely turned to stone. It's a heartbreaking moment that sets up our hero's motivation for the adventure ahead. Later in the king's chamber, the mood is somber as everyone mourns Zelda's condition. The ministers desperately ask the king how she can be saved, and he explains that the only solution lies with the sacred sword, which now lies in pieces. Just when everything seems hopeless, the king reveals their one remaining chance, the Picori. Only these tiny beings have the power to repair the broken sword. The king shares that the secret of the Picori is known only to the royal family, and when a minister suggests sending soldiers to find them, he explains why that won't work. Adults simply cannot see them. That's when our young hero steps up. Link volunteers for the mission, and the king agrees that he's perfect for the task. Not only is he still young enough to see them, but he also has the strongest motivation to save the princess. With that settled, the king hands Link the broken sword and instructs him to travel to Minish Woods to find the Picori and learn how to repair the blade. Link's grandfather, though hesitant at first, presents Link with the sword they had recently forged together, one of his finest works. Before setting out on his journey, Link makes a silent promise to the stone-frozen Zelda that he'll fix this and make Vaati regret everything he's done. Just as Link prepares to leave, a soldier rushes in with urgent news. Those evil spirits released from the chest are now attacking everywhere. The king hands Link a map, emphasizing that time is of the essence. With the battle sword strapped to his back and the broken sword carefully tucked in his arms, our hero Link sets off on his grand adventure. The journey to Minish Woods is long and arduous, but Link's determination keeps him going until he finally reaches the dense forest that supposedly houses the mythical Picori. Now comes the tricky part, actually finding these tiny creatures. Link wanders through the lush woodland, totally unsure where to begin his search. He calls out to trees, peers under mushrooms, and investigates every trunk and bush he can find. But despite his best efforts, there's not a single Picori in sight. Exhausted from his search, Link leans against a tree to catch his breath. The doubt starts creeping in as he wonders why he can't find the Picori, especially since it's supposedly the 100th year when the door to their world opens. Maybe his grandfather was right. Perhaps Link has already grown too mature to see them. This realization hits him hard as he considers the dire consequences. Princess Zelda remains petrified. The kingdom is falling into chaos, and here he is, failing at the very first step of his mission. But just when things seem hopeless, something catches Link's eye. In the distance, strange figures are moving between the trees. At first, he thinks he's imagining things, but after rubbing his eyes, they're still there. One of them, a bird-like creature, appears to be flapping around in distress, calling for help while being tormented by other creatures. Chapter 2: Shrunken Link. As we transition into the next chapter of our adventure, Link finds himself staring at this small bird-like creature that's clearly having a rough time. The poor thing is battered and struggling to stand while other creatures continue to torment it with cruel laughter. When the wounded creature desperately calls out to Link for help, our hero hesitates for just a moment, contemplating whether to just walk away from this strange situation. But that's not who Link is. His sense of justice kicks in and he shouts at the bullies to stop picking on the weak. When one of the creatures snarls and leaps toward him, Link's instincts take over and he draws his sword. The mere glint of the blade is enough to send the troublemakers scurrying away into the trees. Now, alone with the small creature, Link jumps to the conclusion that he's found a leprechaun. You know, the kind with pots of gold at the end of rainbows. He excitedly explains that while there's no rainbow right now, he doesn't need the whole pot of gold. Just enough to buy a nice house would be good. The creature turns red with frustration, emphatically explaining that it is not a leprechaun. When Link suggests it might be a bird instead, the creature gets even more worked up, introducing itself as Eslo. Unfazed by this bizarre encounter, Link starts walking away, explaining that he needs to find the Picori. This catches Eslo's attention and the little creature hops after him, hinting that it might know where to find them. What happens next is hilarious. Before Link can react, Eslo suddenly leaps onto his head and settles down like a hat. Despite Link's attempts to pull him off, Eslo grips tightly, declaring that they're in this together now. With his new headgear firmly in place, Link refocuses on the mission and asks where to find the Picori. Eslo directs him to a nearby tree stump, and just as Link is standing on the tree stump, a strange sensation washes over him. His surroundings blur, and suddenly the entire world shifts around him. With a surprised yelp, our hero shrinks down to a tiny size, tumbling off the stump and landing on a mushroom below. Scrambling to his feet, Link looks around in complete shock. The transformation is mind-boggling. Trees now tower over him like mountains, ordinary blades of grass rise up like massive pillars, and tiny puddles appear as vast lakes. When Link expresses his bewilderment that the world seems to have gotten bigger, Eslo chuckles and explains the truth. The world is exactly the same size, but Link has shrunk. Just then, a heavy thud suddenly shakes the ground beneath them as one of those creatures from before returns. Except now, from Link's miniature perspective, it's a hulking, terrifying giant. The monstrous creature roars and charges toward them, forcing Link to bolt for safety. He squeezes through the gaps between the towering blades of grass while Eslo bounces wildly on his head, cackling about not being dropped. As if running from a giant monster wasn't challenging enough, Eslo warns Link that at their current size, everything can be dangerous, even water drops. Right on cue, a dewdrop falls from a leaf above, smashing into Link's shoulder like a boulder and nearly knocking him off his feet. While continuing to flee through the dense undergrowth, Link wonders if they'll even find the Picori at this rate. Eslo, seemingly more curious than concerned, asks why Link is looking for them anyway. Taking a moment to catch his breath, Link explains the whole situation. Princess Zelda being turned to stone, the villain Vaati, the broken sword, and the mission given by the king. When Link directly asks if Eslo knows Vaati, our feathered friend suspiciously clears his throat and deflects, simply saying this is a lot for a kid to handle, so he'll be helping out. Their little bickering session, with Link insisting he's not a kid and unsuccessfully trying to shake Eslo off his head, is suddenly interrupted when something rustles in the nearby grass. Both freeze as a small figure peeks out, staring at them with wide, curious eyes before vanishing back into the grass. Link immediately gives chase, pushing aside the towering grass blades to follow this mysterious being. When he emerges from the grass, what he sees leaves him absolutely awestruck. They're surrounded by dozens of tiny beings watching with wide eyes. Their little homes are nestled inside mushrooms, tree stumps, and flower buds. Eslo confirms they've found the Picori village, and Link can hardly believe his eyes. They're actually real. Excited by this discovery, our hero steps forward to ask for help, but quickly runs into a language barrier. The Picori are murmuring amongst themselves, but their words make absolutely no sense to Link. Eslo explains they're speaking a dialect of Picorese that even he doesn't know. Just when Link thinks they've hit a dead end, he tries asking if anyone speaks Hylian. After a moment of silence, the crowd parts as an elderly Picori dressed like a priest steps forward and addresses Link in perfect Hylian. Our hero nearly bursts into tears of relief at finally being able to communicate. Wasting no time, he pulls out the broken sword and explains he needs it reforged. The elder's face grows serious, and without a word, he turns and begins leading them somewhere. As they follow the elder through the village, more and more Picori gather to watch them pass. Their whispers fill the air, and their eyes are full of curiosity and wonder. According to Eslo, Link is the first human visitor in a very long time, so naturally, they're all fascinated by him. Link continues as he and Eslo finally arrive at an impressive structure, a hollowed-out barrel that's been transformed into a grand hall. The elder Picori gestures for Link to sit down and hands him something small and round. Our suspicious hero eyes this mysterious offering with understandable caution. After all, you don't just eat strange things given to you by tiny people you've just met. But with a hesitant sigh, Link decides to trust the elder and pops it into his mouth, swallowing quickly. What happens next is amazing. Suddenly, the Picori chatter around Link begins making perfect sense. The young Picori are absolutely fascinated by Link, commenting on his cool clothes and shoes. He's basically a celebrity. When Link realizes he can understand their language, the elder explains he's just eaten a jabbernut, which allows him to speak and understand Picorese. The elder warmly welcomes Link, telling him to be at ease and that their home is now his home too. But before our hero can get too comfortable, practical Eslo reminds him why they're there in the first place. Link immediately gets back to business, placing the shattered sword before the elder and asking if they can reforge it. As the elder examines the broken blade with a serious expression, he delivers some important news. To restore this sacred sword, Link will need to collect 4 sacred elements scattered across Hyrule. These mystical elements contain the power needed to reforge the blade. The elder explains more about these elements and their power, and though they're scattered throughout Hyrule, our determined hero is ready to collect them all to fix the sword and save Princess Zelda. The helpful priest shares that the first element, the earth element, is hidden in the Deepwood Shrine. This news sends a wave of fear through the gathered Picori, as evil spirits have reportedly returned to that area. But Link bravely declares he'll go get the element and defeat the spirits with his grandfather's sword. When the priest expresses concern about Link getting hurt now that he's so small, our hero first grunts in typical teenage fashion before explaining that it's his duty as a man. Impressed by his determination, the priest guides Link to the shrine, and our miniature hero ventures inside. Once Link enters the shrine, the world around him shifts dramatically. Darkness surrounds them, with an eerie void stretching endlessly in all directions. The silence is almost oppressive, broken only by the faint ripple of water beneath Link's feet. As he hesitantly steps forward, practical Eslo encourages him to keep going. Suddenly, there's a rustle in the darkness. That spine-tingling feeling of being watched creeps over them, and Eslo warns Link to stay on guard as they know they're there. Before our hero can fully process this warning, a giant slug lunges at him from his blind spot. With an understandable cry of disgust, Link bolts away, dodging as the slimy creature slithers after him. His escape leads him into a strange forest of giant bean sprouts, where Eslo shouts for him to cut through them. Link swings his sword valiantly, slashing at the sprouts, but discovers they have a frustrating ability. The moment they're cut, they regrow instantly. Meanwhile, the slug is closing in fast, and Link is running out of options. Somehow, through sheer determination, our hero breaks through the regenerating foliage, leaving the slug behind. Ahead looms an ancient stone door covered in intricate carvings. Eslo identifies these as old Picori symbols, prompting Link to question how his hat companion knows so much about Picori lore. Instead of giving a straight answer, Eslo puffs up with pride and teases Link about being clueless for a hero, offering to help if asked, nicely of course. Before Link can press for answers, the ground trembles ominously. Mushroom-like creatures emerge, releasing thick clouds of spores into the air. Eslo shouts a warning that it's poison, but despite Link's best efforts to fight them off, his sword has no effect on these fungi enemies. The toxic spores seep into his lungs, causing his vision to blur, and our brave hero collapses to the ground as Eslo desperately tries to shake him awake. Just when all hope seems lost and everything is fading away for our poisoned hero, a Picori appears out of nowhere holding a small jar. With the last of his strength, Link raises the mysterious jar and points it at the mushroom creatures. And the spores and mushroom monsters are instantly sucked into the jar like a magical vacuum cleaner. Our gasping hero watches in amazement as the swirling mist vanishes before his eyes. This life-saving jar, the helpful Picori explains, was made by their ancestors as a gift for times of need. As the last of the toxic spores disappear, they see something magical. A glowing object appears ahead of them. The Earth Elemental Crystal rises majestically from the ground, and Link's exhaustion fades away as he stares in awe at their first successful acquisition. The priest-like Picori compliments Link on showing great bravery despite his fear, while Link returns the praise, acknowledging the Picori's own courage. In a lighthearted moment, the priestly Picori shares his fascination with humans, their courage, kindness, and even their fashion choices. But then he tilts his head and makes a hilarious observation about his outfit being somewhat dated, at least 1,000 years old. Before Link can say anything, the priest Picori suddenly glows, and in an instant his traditional robes vanish, replaced by stylish jeans, a sharp t-shirt, and trendy spiky hair. Link's jaw practically hits the floor in shock, and even sassy Ezlo is left speechless by this fashion-forward transformation. Getting back to more serious matters, the elder Picori steps forward and explains that if Link seeks to restore the sword, his journey must take him to Mount Crenel. There, he'll find a master craftsman named Malari, who alone has the skill to reforge the blade. With this new destination in mind, the Picori bid farewell to our hero, and Link steps out of the village ready for the next phase of his adventure. As they walk, Ezlo notices the excited grin on Link's face and questions why he's smiling after nearly dying. Our hero's response is pure adventurer spirit. He's discovered this is a real adventure, something big and meaningful. Sure, it's scary, but it's incredibly exciting too. Ezlo responds with his typical grumpy attitude while Link dashes forward enthusiastically toward Mount Crenel, with poor Ezlo bouncing along on his head. Chapter 3: Link and the Mountain Minish. We join Link as he exits the tree, and he's surprised to find himself back at his original size. Ezlo explains that what they just used was a Minish portal, which reduces one's size to travel to the world of the small, and there are many more like it scattered throughout Hyrule. Our resourceful hero immediately asks if they should remain small for their journey, but practical Ezlo reminds him that their destination is very far away. In a moment of brilliant innovation that catches Ezlo completely off guard, Link shrinks himself again and hops on top of a bird for transportation. Ezlo is amazed by Link's creativity, wondering if he's uniquely clever or if all Hylians are this resourceful. Upon reaching Mount Crenel, our duo spots someone being attacked by a bee, and without hesitation, Link jumps into action, with poor Ezlo along for the ride whether he likes it or not. After saving the victim, Ezlo scolds Link for his reckless behavior, but our hero gently picks up the injured Picori to check if they're okay. The small creature is completely shocked to encounter a modern-day person speaking his language. When Ezlo asks if this Picori knows Malari and could introduce them, the little fellow is hesitant at first, but eventually agrees to lead them to his master. However, upon reaching the entrance to their settlement, they face a practical problem. How will Link get inside? Our solution-oriented hero simply jumps into the Minish portal again, shrinks down to Picori size, and rejoins his new guide, who introduces himself as Chiruta of the Mountain Picori. Inside the mountain cave, Link discovers the Picori miners hard at work, chipping away at the rock walls. As he explores deeper, he notices several old forgery tools covered in dust, clearly unused for a very long time. Chiruta sighs and explains that their master, Malari, has abandoned the art of smithing. When Link finally meets Malari, the old smith is surprised to have a visitor after so long. Link explains his urgent mission. The holy sword must be reforged, and Gintari himself recommended him as the best craftsman for the job. Unfortunately, Malari shakes his head and states that he has retired from smithing altogether. Even when Link pleads that the princess will die if the sword isn't reforged, Malari only briefly shows interest before explaining that even if he wanted to help, he lacks the charcoal necessary for forging. With that practical excuse, he dismisses them. As a disappointed Link leaves the forge, compassionate Chiruta decides to reveal the truth behind Malari's retirement. Long ago, the Mountain Picori were renowned for crafting powerful weapons and tools, but their work required vast amounts of wood. This led to serious conflict with the forest Picori, who feared for their homes. Malari's wife, who was herself from the forest, tried to mediate between the two groups, but the tremendous pressure and tension made her sick, ultimately leading to her untimely death. Since that tragic loss, Malari has blamed himself and abandoned smithing completely. After hearing about Malari's heartbreaking past, Link falls silent, truly feeling the weight of the old smith's grief. But Eslo suddenly pipes up with a brilliant idea. If the problem is a lack of heat, they don't need charcoal at all. They just need to find the fire element. With that, Malari would have the means to forge the sword without breaking his vow. Chiruta is absolutely stunned by this creative solution, but quickly agrees to help since it could bring his master back to the forge. According to Chiruta, the fire element is rumored to be deep within the Cave of Flames, a dangerous mine once used by big folk. Since the cave was designed for normal-sized people, Link uses a Minish portal to return to his regular size, carefully carrying tiny Chiruta with him. As they step inside the cave, they're immediately hit by a blast of hot air. This place is absolutely roaring with heat and danger. In typical Link fashion, our adventurous hero spots an old minecart on rusted tracks and excitedly hops in, dragging a reluctant Chiruta and a protesting Eslo along for the ride. What happens next is pure chaos. The cart suddenly lurches forward at incredible speed, sending them racing through the cavern. Poor Chiruta clings to the sides while Eslo yells at Link for his reckless decision. The wild ride comes to an abrupt end when the tracks break off ahead, sending them hurtling toward a molten pit. At the last second, Eslo puffs up like a makeshift parachute, slowing their fall and landing them safely on solid ground. Our hat friend is understandably furious about nearly being killed, but Link simply grins. For him, the adventure is just getting started. After recovering from their near-death experience, Chiruta hops off Link's shoulder and nervously points toward a nearby statue, specifically at a strange cane attached to it. He explains that it's an ancient artifact made by the Picori for big people, the Cane of Pachi. When Link grabs and swings it, a nearby pot flips over completely. According to Chiruta, the cane can flip anything its magical light touches. While Link is having fun experimenting with this new tool, a deep rumbling sound suddenly echoes through the cavern. From the boiling lava emerges a terrifying monster named Gleerock. Eslo's eyes widen in horror as they all make a run for it, but they quickly hit a dead end with the monster closing in fast. In a moment of improvisation, Link swings the Cane of Pachi at a spiked platform, which flips to reveal a flat surface underneath. Creating a quick path by flipping more platforms, Link tries to escape while Gleerock gives chase. When there's nowhere left to run, Chiruta spots a Picori-sized escape route, but Link reminds him they can't shrink without a Minish portal. As Gleerock lunges to attack, our quick-thinking hero acts on instinct and swings the cane at the beast itself. The spell works perfectly. Gleerock flips over, revealing its vulnerable underside. Seizing this opportunity, Link delivers powerful blows to its exposed weak spot. A thick cloud of steam engulfs the cavern, and when it finally clears, the monstrous form of Gleerock is gone, replaced by a much smaller, friendlier creature. Eslo studies the transformed being and mutters that this was another curse, just like what happened to Zelda. Now free from its cursed form, the grateful creature thanks Link and even gives him a kiss on the cheek before presenting him with the fire element. Mission accomplished. When they return to Malari's forge, Chiruta excitedly presents the iron ore they obtained, explaining that it was created without charcoal. As Malari examines it with awe, he realizes this is a way to continue his craft without harming the forest. After some emotional consideration and Chiruta's heartfelt plea that it would make his late wife happy, Malari finally nods and commands his workers to light the furnaces. The forge roars back to life as he agrees to reforge Link's broken sword, though he warns that the process won't be complete without all four elements. In a touching moment, Malari thanks Link for giving his life back and solemnly shares that while he couldn't save his wife, Link must save his princess. With renewed determination, our hero sets off toward his next adventure. As Link soars through the sky on his feathered transportation, he ponders his next move. With two elements still to find, he decides to seek out Chintari's twin brother who resides in the royal library. Upon reaching town, he needs to shrink down to Minish size again, despite Eslo's warnings about the dangers of cats in town. After finding a Minish portal and shrinking down, Link heads toward the towering library buildings, only to hear a low growl behind him. It's a cat. Making a narrow escape through a hole in the wall, Link lands in a dimly lit room, only to feel another presence behind him. Chapter 4: Eslo and Vati. As Link and Eslo keep a wary eye on the cat, the little girl stares at them in complete shock before her face lights up with excitement. She reaches out eagerly to grab the tiny human, and despite Eslo's warning shouts, Link isn't quick enough to escape her grasp. She's absolutely thrilled about catching what she believes is a pekoe and starts making plans for a tiny house for her new pet. Before she can call for her mother, however, our resourceful hero takes decisive action by jabbing her hand with his small sword. When she yelps and instinctively lets go, Link and Ezlo tumble to the ground and make a hasty retreat. Their escape leads them into a nearby chicken coop where they hope to hide, but the chickens mistake them for bugs and give chase. Just when things look dire, the coop's owner arrives with food, sending the chickens scattering toward the girl and giving our tiny heroes a chance to escape. When they finally make it outside, they're greeted by a friendly dog who offers them a ride to the Royal Library after hearing about their quest. Once inside the massive building, they explore until they find a pekoe reader who initially scolds Link for blocking the pages before guiding them to Elder Library, who is literally inside a book himself. Link is surprised to find the Elder writing inside a book within a book and learns he's recording tales from his youth, including his journey to the Temple of Droplets. When Link eagerly asks if the water element is there, the Elder confirms it, but casually suggests Link could read about it in volumes 2 or 3 of his works. Looking at the enormous books, our impatient hero sighs that he doesn't have time for all that reading. Instead of answering directly, the Elder simply continues writing in his book, much to Link's frustration. Finally, after some prodding, the Elder dramatically narrates one of his adventures, describing his final battle against an arch-enemy with razor-sharp claws and a dagger-like beak. According to his tale, he bravely stood his ground with his trusty needle and claimed his enemy's feather as a trophy. Link relates to this story, mentioning his own recent near-death experience with the chickens. In an interesting twist, the Elder suddenly peers at Ezlo, noting that his voice sounds familiar and asking if they've met before. This question causes Ezlo to panic, and he quickly grabs Link and pulls him away from the Elder. Following Ezlo's suspicious reaction to the Elder's question, Link demands to know what he's hiding. Our hat friend remains suspiciously silent before simply muttering that they need to move on. With Elder Library's map in hand, our tiny heroes resume their journey to find the next element. Their adventure takes them through all sorts of challenging terrain, barren lands, murky swamps, and even the treacherous Fortress of Winds. After digging at a specific spot marked on the map, they finally uncover the entrance to the Temple of Droplets. In his excitement, Link rushes forward only to trip and land face first on the cold ground. Ezlo chuckles and suggests he should rest since he's clearly exhausted, but our determined hero insists he doesn't have time. He has to save Princess Zelda. Ezlo watches him with an unreadable expression, murmuring something about wishing someone else had that kind of determination. When Link catches this strange comment and asks who he's talking about, Ezlo quickly changes the subject by pointing out some nearby pekoe. Link is definitely noticing a pattern here. Ezlo has been dodging questions and avoiding any talk about his past. Before he can press further, though, his attention is drawn to a group of pekoe marching toward the temple. When he asks where everyone is going, he learns that the Great Mayfly Fairy is singing in the Temple of Droplets. Inside the temple, atop a grand staircase, they find a radiant fairy singing in a mesmerizing voice. Her beauty and elegance immediately remind Link of Zelda, and he stands there completely captivated by the performance. Ezlo breaks the silence with a sobering revelation. When the great fairy stops singing, her life will end. The life of a mayfly is incredibly short. She hatched only a week ago and has been singing non-stop since then, spreading her light and joy, but her time is nearly up. This realization deeply unsettles Link, and when the fairy finishes her song and her glow begins to dim, he calls out for her to keep singing. The fairy smiles at him and thanks him for listening, but explains that the song is now over. Link is absolutely heartbroken by the unfairness of her short lifespan, but the fairy's perspective is beautiful. She got to share her song, and there were those who cared enough to listen, and that alone is enough to make her happy. In her final moments, the Great Mayfly Fairy summons a soft blue glow, and the water element materializes before her, and she hands it to Link with a prayer that it may aid him on his journey. The moment our hero grasps the element, a wave of energy flows through him, replacing his exhaustion with newfound strength. But before he can fully appreciate this moment, a sudden explosion rocks the temple. The force sends everyone flying, and while Link manages to hold onto the water element and tuck it away safely, dust and debris fill the air. When the smoke clears, a figure hovers in the distance. It's Vaati. The dark sorcerer mockingly apologizes for interrupting their celebration and reveals he sensed something powerful, assuming the light force must be there. The Great Fairy calmly explains there is no light force there, just a celebration of life, but Vaati isn't buying it. As things grow tense, Link steps forward with his sword, demanding that Vaati undo the curse on Princess Zelda. But instead of focusing on Link, Vaati's attention shifts to his hat, and with a smirk, he greets him as Master Eslo. Link is completely shocked by this revelation, while Eslo sighs and addresses Vaati, confirming their past connection. He taunts Eslo about enjoying the little curse he placed on him, and when Link asks in disbelief if Eslo was really Vaati's teacher, our hat companion keeps his focus on Vaati, stating he never created that cap to serve Vaati's wicked ambitions. Vaati casually mentions that the cap grants wishes, and with the light force, he'll be unstoppable, prompting Eslo to warn that even with that power, Vaati's wish will never be fulfilled because he doesn't understand the forces he's tampering with. Their tense exchange continues with Vaati mocking that Eslo's curse is permanent, while Eslo reveals his true mission hasn't been to undo his own curse, but to keep Vaati in check and stop him before his arrogance destroys everything. When Eslo urges Link to flee since he can't defeat Vaati until the sword is fully restored, our stubborn hero refuses to run away. Before Link can charge forward, Vaati decides to prove his superiority in the most horrible way possible. With just a flick of his hand, dark energy radiates from him and engulfs the great Mayfly fairy. Her elegant wings shrivel as her delicate form twists into something monstrous, a giant moth-like creature with soulless, glowing eyes. Vaati cruelly suggests Link should be thanking him since now the fairy can live forever, while the corrupted fairy lets out a distorted shriek, thrashing wildly in confusion. Our hero is horrified by this twisted transformation and demands that Vaati stop this madness immediately. He merely chuckles at Link's outrage, casually mentioning he has better things to do since the light force is waiting, before vanishing. The temple is left in absolute chaos with the fairy-turned monster screeching, its mind completely lost to the curse. Link clenches his fist, vowing never to forgive Vaati for this cruelty. Eslo sighs heavily, realizing he has no choice but to finally tell Link everything. With weary eyes, he drops a revelation. Vaati and he were once Picori. Link's eyes widen in absolute shock, and Eslo explains that it all began with a single special cap. Chapter 5: The King in the Wind Tribe. Eslo finally opens up about his past, explaining that he was once a famous mage in the Picori world, and Vaati was his apprentice. The problem was that Vaati had an unhealthy obsession with the evil gods of the big world. One fateful day, he stole a magical cap that Eslo had created, one with the power to grant wishes to whoever wore it. When Eslo tried to stop him, it was already too late. Vaati had succumbed to the cap's magic and placed a curse on Eslo, transforming him into his current hat-like form. After gaining the cap's power, Vaati became fixated on obtaining the light force, believing it was the only real threat to his newfound abilities. He planned to steal it once the gate between worlds, which only opens once a century, became accessible. When Link asks about this mysterious light force, Eslo connects it to the old tale of the Picori helping the hero. Apparently, the Picori didn't just give the hero a sword, they also bestowed the light force, which provided nearly limitless power. Feeling responsible for his apprentice's actions, Eslo came to the world of the big people to try to fix the mess, but was attacked. Link finally understands why Eslo always seems to know so much, which briefly inflates our hat friend's ego as he asks to be addressed as Sir Eslo. Our hero doesn't really play along before asking about the light force's location. Unfortunately, Eslo only knows that it was last seen being handed over to the royal family. Its current whereabouts remain a mystery. With that settled, Eslo urges Link to focus on gathering the final element, the wind element, as it's more crucial at the moment. When Link checks his map but can't find the Wind Tribe, Eslo explains they left the ground long ago and now live in the sky among the clouds. Link is understandably concerned about how they're supposed to reach clouds. Just as they're arguing about this seemingly impossible task, a mysterious traveler approaches and asks if they have a map that shows King Gustav's grave. After checking the map and learning it's about half a day's walk away, the man sits down, clearly demotivated by the long journey ahead. Instead of making the trip himself, he asks Link to go in his place. When our surprised hero questions this request, the traveler assures him it will be worth his time and takes out a fragment of something called a kinstone. He explains that these are stones of happiness. When all pieces are collected and a matching fragment is found, they bring rewards. Wanting Link to find the most happiness, he hands him an entire bag of kinstones. Before Link can even process what's happening, the mysterious traveler literally vanishes into thin air. Suspecting this mysterious person might be from the Wind Tribe, Link tries to chase after him, but practical Eslo points out they couldn't possibly keep up with someone like that. Instead, they should just follow his instructions and head to King Gustav's grave. Upon reaching the eerie graveyard, however, both Link and Eslo are understandably spooked by the atmosphere. When a horrifying figure suddenly appears before them, they nearly jump out of their skin, only to realize it's just the cemetery's gravedigger. The gravedigger points them toward King Gustav's grave before resuming his work. At the grave, they discover a stairway leading underground and decide to investigate, though they're both still trembling with fear. Eslo tries to boost Link's courage by reminding him he's fought monsters before, so this shouldn't be a big deal. As our hesitant hero takes a step forward, though, the gravedigger suddenly seals the entrance behind them. In the darkness, a voice echoes, repeatedly mentioning the light force and accusing Link of coming to steal it. When Link turns around, he finds himself face to face with a ghostly figure, an old king claiming to protect the kingdom's peace by trapping any intruders seeking the light force. Both Link and Eslo are absolutely terrified, and in his panic, Link accidentally drops the Kinstone shard. The ghost's expression changes when he notices the shard, instructing them to check if it matches the one on his tomb. When Link places the shard against the engraving, it's a perfect match. Seeing this, the ghost declares them to be his allies rather than enemies. When Link explains their encounter with the mysterious traveler, the king is moved that his old friends haven't forgotten him. Sensing the danger to Hyrule, he tells Link to take the completed Kinstone to Vale Falls, where he'll find the path to the winds. Upon arriving at Vale Falls, Link discovers another Kinstone tomb and places the shard into it, triggering a hidden mechanism. A passage suddenly opens inside the waterfall, and our adventurous hero rushes in to find an ancient ruin. After examining the area and discovering a pedestal with an inscription confirming the Wind Tribe's existence, Link places another Kinstone shard on it. Immediately, powerful wind currents erupt around him, lifting him skyward and carrying him among the clouds to the Wind Tribe's home. At first, Link is awestruck by the floating city, but cautious Eslo warns him to be careful. The Nation of the Wind is eerily still and something feels off. He also advises Link not to look down or lose his footing, which of course guarantees that our curious hero immediately glances down. The dizzying sight of the vast sky beneath him makes his stomach churn. As he struggles to steady himself, Link notices the feather he's carrying is twitching strangely. According to Eslo, it's trying to guide him, so Link flips his map and watches as the feather traces a layout of the castle, revealing a clearer path forward. While admiring this magical guidance, a sudden movement in the clouds catches his attention, and before he can react, a monstrous creature emerges from the mist. The Georg, a terrifying fish of the sky, descends upon Link. With no other choice, our brave hero leaps onto its back and drives his sword into it. As the beast thrashes violently trying to shake him off, Eslo shouts for Link to look down, only to spot an even larger Georg lurking beneath them, its gaze locked onto Link. The thin air disorients our hero, causing him to lose his grip and tumble downward. Just when things look dire, his feather shimmers and transforms into a cape, wrapping around him and slowing his descent. Now gliding through the sky, Link dodges the Georg's lunges and executes a brilliant strategy. He spins rapidly around the beast, making it dizzy as it struggles to keep up with his movements. Seizing the perfect moment, he delivers the final blow, cutting the creature down. As the Georg falls, the wind currents shift slightly. Turning to investigate, Link spots small figures gliding effortlessly through the sky. They look like Picori floating with the wind. A strange sense of calm washes over him, and before he knows it, exhaustion takes hold, pulling him into a deep sleep. When Link wakes up, he finds himself in a soft bed with Eslo sound asleep beside him, snoring loudly. The elder of the Wind Tribe explains they've adjusted the air so Link can breathe more easily. Upon confirming they're indeed the Wind Tribe, the elder mentions they were facing disruptions due to Vadi's actions, but Link seems to have set things right. When Eslo awakens and asks if the light force is there, the elder's expression grows serious. He shares the history of King Gustav, who used the light force to bring incredible prosperity to Hyrule, curing diseases, increasing harvests, and ensuring peace. The king had studied among the Wind Tribe, learning about the land's bounty, but was tragically assassinated by a traitor seeking the light force for himself. With his dying breath, Gustav entrusted the Wind Tribe with its protection, and to honor his wish, they left the earth behind, taking the light force beyond the reach of darkness. When Link asks about its current location, the elder explains that the secret will only be revealed when the four elements are united. When the sacred blade is completed, it will guide him to the sanctuary where the truth lies. With the wind element now in his possession, Link thanks the Wind Tribe for their help. Impressed by his determination, the Elder instructs the Picori to grant him the power of the wind for swift travel. A magical flying carpet materializes beneath him, lifting him high into the sky. In an instant, Link soars across the land, reaching the mountain Picori in the blink of an eye. The Master Smith is astonished by his rapid return with all 4 elements, and Link, still brimming with energy, eagerly offers to help complete the sword, proudly mentioning he's the grandson of the best smith in the nation. The Elder Smith chuckles, pleased by Link's enthusiasm, and invites him to show what he's got. Together, Link and the Master Smith take up their hammers and work tirelessly, striking the blade with precision and care. The forge fills with flying sparks and the rhythmic sound of metal striking metal as the sword gradually takes its final form. At last, after countless strikes, the blade gleams with newfound power. The sacred sword is whole once more. Chapter 6, True Strength. Mellory proudly explains that this is actually a new sword crafted by the hands of the Picori, even stronger than before. He directs Link to find the sanctuary, the same one mentioned by the Wind Tribe, a gate between the 2 worlds that opens once a century and is located somewhere in Hyrule Castle. Our hero rushes to the castle, and as he approaches, he notices troops marching out. When Link inquires about their destination, a soldier explains they've been ordered to find the Light Force. Once inside the castle, the king and minister welcome Link back, and our determined hero approaches Zelda's statue and declares that with the completed sword, he'll finally bring her back. The king looks at Link with a strange suspicion in his eyes before asking if his journey was fruitful. Link reports that while the sword is strong, it still needs to be awakened, and asks about the sanctuary's location. In a telling moment, the king asks what the sanctuary is, prompting the minister to remind him that he mentioned not long ago it was hidden in the courtyard. Following this lead, they head to the courtyard but find nothing obvious at first. Link asks the magical feather to draw a map, which indicates the exact location, but all he sees is a plain wall. Eslo, however, insists the door is open and Link should simply walk forward. When our hero walks straight through what appeared to be a solid wall, the king is visibly shocked, and the minister asks if he's feeling well. The king's response is a sinister laugh under his breath. Inside the sanctuary, Link finds the sacred pedestal. Eslo instructs him to place the sword in the pedestal and the 4 elements in the surrounding pillars. As he does so, the elements unleash their power into the blade, finally completing it. When Link picks up the fully empowered sword, something magical happens. It begins projecting the history of the evil spirit's attack on Hyrule and how the Picori gifted both the Holy Sword and the Light Force to defeat it. The projection reveals a massive revelation. Princess Zelda is the current owner of the Light Force. It has been passed down through the royal family for generations, explaining the source of her mysterious powers. Eslo is absolutely stunned, realizing that even the Picori themselves had no idea the force had been transferred this way. Just then, the king appears and remarks how the secret was hidden right under his nose the whole time. When Link questions how he got through the door, the truth is revealed. It's none other than Vaati in disguise. As Eslo urgently tells Link to go save the princess, he discovers that everyone in the castle has been turned to stone by Vaati's magic. Link quickly restores the minister, who panics and explains that Vaati has taken the princess and is preparing for some kind of ritual. As if on cue, Vaati transforms the castle into a dark, twisted fortress. The once familiar layout of the castle is now completely altered, with monsters and skulls relentlessly attacking Link at every turn. Even the stairs are twisted and nearly impossible to navigate. Meanwhile, at the ritual site, Vaati attempts to claim the Light Force, but faces unexpected resistance from Zelda's innate power. He continues his efforts as Link fights his way through the transformed castle. When our hero finally reaches the ritual chamber, he confronts Vaati, who smugly declares that Link is too late. He's already drained all of Zelda's power and is now Vaati Reborn. As he speaks, he transforms into a new, more powerful form that is even Eslo deeply worried. Impressed with his newfound power, Vaati attacks Link with magic, but our clever hero reflects the attack using the Holy Sword. Seeing his own magic turned against him, Vaati becomes absolutely furious and summons a fireball from the Light Force, intending to destroy the sword once and for all. He then changes form again, this time into a fire sorcerer, and launches a barrage of fiery attacks. Link dodges most of them, but a few stray blasts hit him in the back. After extinguishing the flames, Link makes a profound observation. He would never abandon his humanity for power like Vaati has done. This philosophical difference enrages Vadi, who proclaims himself a supreme being above such concerns. As Vadi prepares to attack again, however, something unexpected happens. His arm suddenly begins to transform on its own. Before he can understand what's happening, monstrous traits start appearing all over his body. He struggles against this involuntary transformation, desperately demanding to know why this is happening. Eslo explains that this is the power of purity, now distorted by Vadi's own evil soul. As Vadi suffers from these effects, crying out that he's not a monster, Eslo encourages Link to strike. Link then tells Vadi that it's not his body that makes him a monster, it's his actions. While Vadi relied on stolen power to become strong, Link relied on his own abilities and determination. With these words, Link delivers the final blow, defeating Vadi and undoing all his curses throughout the land. Then Princess Zelda returns to normal and Link rushes to her side. Still dazed, she feels as though she's been asleep for a very long time, and our hero gently reassures her it was just a long dream. As the castle and everything around them begins returning to normal, Eslo expresses his joy at Zelda's safe return before offering a sincere apology on behalf of Vadi. He acknowledges his responsibility as Vadi's master and asks for forgiveness, admitting his own mistakes. In a surprising turn, we see both Eslo and Vadi return to their original Picori forms once more. With tears in his eyes, Vadi asks for forgiveness and explains he only worshipped the evil god to impress his master by proving his strength. This confession triggers Eslo's anger, as he reveals he only pushed Vadi so hard because he saw great potential in him. He explains that true power comes from character, not magic, which is exactly why Vadi lost to Link. Our hero observes this change in Eslo's demeanor and offers some wisdom to Vadi. Training is meant to be hard, but persevering without taking shortcuts ultimately makes you stronger. He encourages Vadi to always do his best, then admits he sympathizes with him, acknowledging that Eslo is definitely a tough teacher. When Vadi agrees, Eslo is humorously irked by this united front against him. As the gate between worlds begins to close, Eslo takes Vadi and prepares to leave. Before Link can properly say goodbye, Eslo apologizes for all the hardships he put him through. Link, clearly emotional, protests that Eslo can't just come and go so suddenly. And in a touching moment disguised as a complaint, he yells that it's unfair because he's going to miss his cap and his head will be cold. Understanding the true meaning behind Link's words, Eslo gives him a parting gift, a cap that resembles the form Eslo took while sitting on Link's head. He thanks Link for showing him the power of mortal hearts and asks him to accept this reminder of their adventure. As Eslo and Vadi step through the closing door, Link shouts at the fading portal that he'll be waiting for him in 100 years, so Eslo better not forget about him. He promises never to forget their adventure or the Picori, even when he grows old. A year later, as the festival approaches once again, Link continues his training and peace has returned to Hyrule. Princess Zelda still sneaks out of the castle as usual, and Link has started to grow taller. But no matter how much he grows, he'll never forget their big teeny-tiny adventure. From the trees, the Picori say their silent goodbyes to Link as this journey comes to an end. Bonus chapter, Vadi during training. At the end of the manga, we see a bonus chapter explaining young Vadi's training before turning evil. The tale explains that once upon a time there was a very young and timid Picori. Despite his shy nature, he was absolutely bursting with ambition, determined to become famous, super awesome, and rich. This was young Vadi before everything went wrong. When Vadi first met Eslo, he eagerly asked to become his pupil. Eslo, seeing great potential in this ambitious youngster, warned him about the difficult trials ahead, but Vadi accepted them without hesitation. In his mind, Vadi thought Eslo had a nice beard, but not much else of note. His plan was simple: copy his master from top to bottom and learn everything in just 3 years. Meanwhile, Eslo was thinking this kid was pretty good at flattery, and he'd need to be careful not to let Vadi find out about his secret trips to the singles parties in town. For his first training assignment, Vadi was tasked with bringing back something called Kora from the Minish Woods. Our determined apprentice journeyed for days, enduring all sorts of hardships along the way, only to discover from the local Picori that Kora didn't actually grow there at all. When he returned empty-handed, Eslo revealed this was actually a lesson in not believing everything you hear. Understandably, Vadi concluded his master was simply a sadist. For his second assignment, Eslo explained he wasn't being hard on Vadi for enjoyment. It was all part of training to strengthen his spirit. Then, in the most casual way possible, he mentioned he had accidentally deleted all of Vadi's saved game data, philosophically adding that life is a big adventure. Furious, Vadi secretly vowed that one day he would get revenge for this gaming catastrophe. One day, while plotting various revenge scenarios, perhaps trimming Eslo's eyebrows, putting mustard in his tea, or giving him an exploding cigar, Vadi stumbled upon a mysterious gift box. When he asked Eslo about it, his master explained it was a gift specifically for him. Traumatized by previous lessons, poor Vadi hesitated to open it, but Eslo encouraged him to go ahead. Inside, he found a cake with a heartfelt message expressing appreciation for all his hard work. When Vadi questioned this unexpected kindness, Eslo explained he was trying to copy human traditions. With tears welling up in his eyes, Vadi sniffled and pointed out that Christmas had been months ago. Eslo simply told him to cut the cake and enjoy the moment. Sometimes, even the strictest teachers have a soft spot for their students. And that brings us to the end of The Legend of Zelda Minish Cap.